During the last, few decades, what I notice has been happening is the introduction of different life hacks. That's a term that today people use. Life hacks that have somehow found their way into the spiritual arena or religious experience or spiritual or any kind of endeavor where a person is trying to understand their place in the cosmos, in life. Am I happy? Am I not happy? Why am I not happy? And what can I do to enhance the little happiness that I have, etc., etc. So I notice that people are interested in techniques. When I love patterns. I love to look for patterns because they say so much that the so-called components of whatever is presented to you camouflage, ultimately. It's like filibuster, You see this in academia, you see this in the world of politics, of course, in the world of journalism and as such. You're trying to listen to what they're what they're trying to say, and you really ultimately hear things that are moving you away from what's really happening, never addressing what's supposed to be happening. The bigger picture is not being shown. Well, the bigger picture shows up. It comes to view when you start looking for patterns. That's how you even look, when you're looking at a jigsaw puzzle, you throw all the pieces, thousands of pieces on a big table. They're all jumbled, all mixed up. You have to be patient. This is a trick that I guess, a method of seeing, because it was very frustrating to wrap my mind around these jigsaw puzzles, because to make this beautiful painting or picture come out or photograph, the pieces look so, distinctly different from each other. But you need patience. You need to calm your mind, and then to start looking for some pieces that match, occurrences that match in life. And those tell us about our own likes and dislikes, whatever we want to look at and whatever we're trying to avoid. True religious practice, true spiritual practice, however you want to call it, is all about looking for those patterns to understand. It is about truth and honesty. It is not about hacks. It is not about finding the quickest, the fastest, life hack that has become part of the, lexicon of modern day world. And people have come up with their own, in different languages. You have that. Books are being written left and right. And Buddhist monks are never far away, to join in the fray and just, they also want to get a piece of the pie type of a thing. Especially, sometimes I'm sent these videos of people who look like Buddhist monks. And they're talking about things that, picked up from pop psychology or something like that, or whatever is selling recently, whatever is the theme of the month, of the season, the newest hack. spirituality is not about techniques. Again, I'm interchangeably using spirituality, religious practice, however you want to use it, but basically developing that connection where the mind, the heart, the body, your role in society merge. There is that coherence. Virtue is the spine that connects all these aspects of yourself. And based on my observations, what I have not seen happen with all of these life hack, presentations from left and right everywhere, is virtue. It's missing. The person's virtuous conduct, the person's moral life habits. Not life hacks, but life habits. What are they doing? How are they living, morally speaking? I don't see them. And the same is true with these, you've had characters, very famous Buddhist monks over the last decades, popularizing terms like awakening, nirvana or nibbana, or mindfulness or awareness. All you have to do is be aware, type of a thing. That's one of the most stupidest things I've ever heard. Growing up as a 20-year-old, being introduced to the Dhamma proper for the first time, that's what I used to hear a lot. But in my interactions with my earliest teachers, Buddhist monks, I would also be told about the value of maintaining the 5 precepts. I was like, what is that? Then I took my 5 precepts as a layperson. And then I saw how much it involved, how much effort. So for many people, we put the 5 precepts into a separate category in life, in our lives. We, meanwhile, are spending the biggest chunk of our attention on living life and figuring life out, irrespective of or outside the range of the 5 precepts. Sila. Not to kill, not to harm, not to steal anything, not to take what belongs to someone else, not to indulge in any kind of, or behave in any kind of sexually immoral, unethical, irresponsible, hurtful way, betraying someone sexually, etc. All those fall into the 3rd precept. And then you have the speech-related precept. Not to gossip, not to backbite, not to lie, not to falsify reality to fit your own agendas, and not to engage in any kind of idle chatter, useless talk, chit-chat. And then the last one is not to engage in any kind of taking of any kind of intoxicants, anything that deludes the mind. Anything, including mushrooms and things like that, psychedelics, they fall into this category, where the reality that is being experienced doesn't get to be augmented in any way to make you feel a certain way. That's what alcohol does. That's what drugs do, to enhance. Now, this is different than somebody who's in pain, severe headache, let's say migraine, or they've fractured their bone or something, injured themselves, or they're about to have surgery, they need anesthesia. That kind of drugs don't fall into this. Buddhism, the Dhamma, does not promote pain, does not promote suffering. It's the opposite. So anything that deludes the mind is keeping you in suffering because you're not dealing with the real problem, which is your refusal to look at life being an arena where you're training yourself, your mind. Not to figure out ways to cheat your way, life hacks, figuring out things, outsmarting life. But to develop even an arrowhead, a knife, you need to sharpen the knife. So what you have are people who have, let's use that analogy actually for a second. If you look at a knife, the blade, especially one that doesn't work, if you look closely, you'll see that it has cracks in it at the edge. It's chipped. It's not basically smooth, the edge. It has gaps in it, etc. So what a good master knife sharpener does is he first has to blunt the edge entirely. So what sometimes they do is they use a piece of concrete or rock or something like, and then they take the knife and the blade and they just go, perpendicular to it to blunt it. And it gets so blunt, but what it does is it's smoothing out the edge and making it seamless, a flowing line. So those cracks don't have, they disappear. But the sharpness also in some of those areas also disappears for the moment. And then they start, after it's blunted quite well, it's seamless, it's one smooth line running through the edge, they get to work. What we have today are characters, people, philosophical schools, teachers, quasi-teachers, pseudo-monks, Buddhist monks, you have these guru types all over the place because it's the easiest thing in the world to become a spiritual teacher, right? Nobody's going to check your papers. It's how you deliver a message and how interesting you make it look like, you sound like. How easy is it? Sila is not easy. It forces you to first blunt out the questionable areas of your life. In my journeys throughout the world, especially as a Buddhist monk, I've noticed individuals, students who would come and in different areas of the world, and they would say, "Oh, Bhante, I'm so glad, can you be my teacher, this and that?" And I said, well, the teacher is the Buddha. What I'm sharing with you are the tools and instructions. Yeah, but can you guide me in meditation? Yes, But from the very first day, I emphasized the importance of maintaining sila, developing sila, having sila in their lives, virtue, the precepts basically. Usually, there is, as they say in the vernacular, the honeymoon period. And they're very inspired by something, maybe something I said, something I expressed, some image or a story I told them about or read in some sutta. Especially when you're not there in that country, in that region, in the world. Suddenly they find themselves floating back into their normal world. They go to their bars, they go to their hangouts, they go to, they hang out with their friends with whom they break any of those precepts or all. So now, what happens? That person is still looking for a life hack to be happy, not realizing that they've had it all along. Now, I'm not going to venture out and say the Dhamma is the ultimate life hack. Some might say, yeah, that's true. Well, I disagree, because hack, for me, it's a shortcut, a trick you figured out, not to do the work. No, you need to make sure that your life is on a strong, solid foundation of morality, virtue, virtuous living, proper conduct has to be there. Without that, happiness is not going to happen. Without that structure, sooner or later you're going to chip away at someone else's rights. You're going to invade someone else's country. You're going to invade someone else's happiness. You're going to take away other people's rights. You're going to think you're invincible because you can get away with things and no one's noticing the things that you're doing. And if others see this as a problem, then they should come and knock on your door and say, hey, you're committing some felony or some crime and you're hurting us. But so long as no one's there knocking on my door, then I must be doing something right. These are all the tricks of the mind. While you're in it, while you're enjoying these so-called freedoms, you see this all along, all the time. Look at famous people, look at powerful people. This is what they've done. Until aging happens, until life comes and serves you a different meal, meaning the praise that you were gaining now has turned into criticism. The things that you had, the skeletons in the closet, show up, exposed, or somebody attacks you. Even, let's say, if it's something that's being done unfairly or not true, but because of the fluctuating nature of the, we call it vicissitudes of life, of this loka, of this world, of this existence. So it has its opposites. So these 8 states of being, praise, criticism, fame, infamy, pain, suffering, etc. But society as such has been seeking ways to enjoy the only one side of reality. You're not going to have only praise. You're not going to only have good things, happy things, joyful things happen to you. That goes against the rules of nature. To this day, people are always trying to, so-called educated people, not to have losses. Well, loss is there because of gain. Now, you're not always going to have loss. You're going to also have gain at times. And how well you play your cards, they might actually improve your chances of having more gain than loss. But that's not a guarantee at all. No matter how many life hacks, how many books, tricks you think you have under your belt, for that reason, the Buddha goes again and again back to the importance of sila, virtue, which I find to be missing in discussions. Even within Buddhist circles, this is what I was saying earlier. You have famous monks, this and that, they've become popular. I have no idea why, really. I used to buy their books, this and that. Wow, this so, this great monk, this. But I would look for, what is he saying? What are they saying, really? It's like another form of religious filibuster. Because so long as they're not discussing the person's choice in living life with virtue, and not in passing. Sometimes I've heard them say, be a good person, and then they would talk about forgiveness this, forgiveness that, or be happy, have a joyful mind, or meditation is important, and then this and that. Well, and then they focus on what sells a lot. Basically, they were one of those, the movements that started this whole life hack business. 70s, 80s, figuring things out, finding shortcuts. There is no shortcut. Just like that blade, in order for it to be sharp again, seamlessly, and for a long time, without needing to be sharpened again every few, strokes, every few hours, every few days, it has to be disciplined. And that is what I use the example of blunting the blade intentionally. And then you patiently go ahead and use a grinding whetstone, back and forth, back and forth. That's called life. That's called being in the relationship with life without telling yourself lies. Meaning facing your old tendencies in the midst of similar circumstances and making the choice to have a different behavior develop. This is you sharpening the knife. By choosing to meet life in a way that was different than before, because to break sila, to do something immoral, is the easiest thing. In California, finally, in some areas, some cities, they are instituting back law and order. Imagine that, 21st century, so-called civilized society. People were stealing, have been stealing. Friends and family have been informing us that it has happened in front of their eyes as they're gone to, let's say, a market or a CVS or a pharmacy or something like that. People would come and with their clippers or bolt cutters, and they would cut these things, that are secure in the store, steal them, take them, and run out, or sometimes just walk out, because they know no police officer is going to, no one's going to stop them. So now some people are being caught because there's a new law, apparently, they started finally to make it look like it's civilized for a change. Otherwise, you're back into the, dark ages in the 21st century, so-called modern society, where people come and steal from, hardworking individuals who are starting a business or have a business, and they're making them, so many businesses went out. They lost their money because the government was not helping. The city was not helping. The police were not helping. So now you have some of these characters who, just like, from the past several years they've been doing, waltzing into a store, picking up things on their way out without paying for them, as they've been doing. Finally, the police come and take them. Not the stuff from their hands, but no, they're booking them, taking them into their cars, black and whites, and there was a video I saw of these two women sitting there in the back seat of a, trooper's car, and you should see their faces. They're like stunned, like, how could this happen? how could this happen? Like, why are they booking us for a felony? I mean, I just stole. Like, what's the problem? And you don't know whether to laugh. The level of, this is what I'm saying is happening when you don't have virtue. This person has no clue what virtue is, what morality is, unless somebody comes and breaks into their home. Well, the same thing happens when somebody's cheating on their spouse, until it happens to them. I knew people who would do that, but then they would hold their partner, they would tell them, if you do, they wouldn't say that, they were cheating to them, to their partner, but they would say, but they would have told me, let's say. And then they would confront the partner and say, oh, if we heard about this, like, if you ever do something like that, I don't know what I'll do. Meanwhile, they are cheating. So virtue is lacking. Now, such characters who come to any spiritual discipline, for that matter, expecting to figure their way out to more happiness, to more opportunities in life, by meditating, by going to a 10-day silent retreat or something like that, or having a guru or a teacher, like the case has been with so many so-called famous monks, or not so famous either. Sooner or later, if the teacher is still holding them up to that, that standard of sila, they will drop out. That's a good sign that the teaching, or the teacher, that the teaching is being, brought forth to the society, has some integrity. Because you're not lowering the bar. That's what we have. That's what I'm trying to say. We have lowered the bar. Standard. That's why the world is in this mess. Because I rarely encounter any teacher talking about the importance of living a moral life. It's all about feeling good, emotionality, being at peace, being mindful, being alert, being mindful. While they're living a very immoral life. So, in the case of Buddhism especially, you cannot be at peace, you cannot meditate, you cannot be a healthy component of society, doing your part to improve society, without improving yourself. And you cannot absolutely 100% improve your life, impossible to advance or even stay at that, let's say, level that you had attained, whatever that was, based, while using this practice, because you will fall back if you are not adhering to a life based on moral, ethical, virtuous behavior. That means your words have to match your behavior. Behavior, as in your mental activity, what you think about, your verbal activity, your speech in any form, not just verbally communicating. It could be communication through email, through texting. So that behavior as well. And thirdly, your physical behavior, which for some reason is the only behavior that we look at as a society, which is quite foolish to just look at that. And only when the person is caught red-handed, as it were. No, there's this whole other too aspects of one's behavior that we need to look at. That's where it came from. So you cannot have any kind of spiritual discipline if it is missing this huge component. Without sila, nothing works. Without virtue in your life, don't talk about somebody else's. They don't have that. No, you always have to start from your own. I started this by mentioning, I think, about some students in different parts of the world that I've taught, and sooner or later they will find it very off-putting, not as exciting, not as flowery. It doesn't have the bells and whistles of spirituality, quote unquote. Because the teacher keeps bringing them back to the importance of living life with virtue. But the person enjoys going out at night with friends, family, or whatever, social circles, into bars, or hanging out with individuals who drink. They drink too, but they have control over it, type of a thing. Well, the environment dictates, not ultimately your willpower. Many people have so much conceit that think that they got this. No, you don't got anything. It's just conceit that you have in your heart, which is covering up. You're using the lingo, as they say, of spirituality or whatever, to cover up your drive to want to hang out with these people in these surroundings. Because the moment you do, you are opening yourself up to circumstances that are the opposite of what you want. So you cannot go to a club, a pub, to a DJ session, this and that, and then stay there or for X amount of hours, listen to the noise and music, and they say, oh, I complain about the noise later on, after having left it though. But you enjoyed that company. So you have to color it up, you have to camouflage it and present it as, oh, I was just sharing my spiritual vibes with them. All that is nonsense. Complete hogwash. Because we know what's going on underneath it. You're not practicing at all. Why? Because now you have the reverberations of those experiences carried over. And who knows what else has happened there. Even if you don't drink, even if you don't participate, but others are. So the environment is extremely important. If you're living a lazy life, stuck, check your environment. Even where you live, your room, corner of the room, wherever you spend most of your time, your bed, where you place your shoes, how you remove your socks, your clothing. Are they on top of each other? Are they folded? Are they in the laundry basket? Do you toss away your clothing before you put on your pajamas, for example? What's the state of the workplace that you have? Do you have a workplace, or it's all over the place? That's your workplace. Well, that reflects your chaotic mind state. So, sila is the criterion upon which, the foundation upon which your mental cultivation lands, rests upon. And based on these two being together, there, fully functioning, healthy, that you will have insights. You will not have insights by the random sittings that you do, meditations, or going to this lecture, that Dhamma talk, that teacher that you call your teacher, but when the teacher gives you instructions, you don't follow along by applying them. And application means application of sila, virtue, and generosity. That's another thing. People have become quite stingy in the world today, or they were always stingy, perhaps. I look around and I see in nature, I see generosity through and through, all over the place. The ocean never comes and tells the fisherman, hey, you need to pay me. I gave you, 2 buckets of fish today. You need to pay me back. The sun never comes complaining and saying, hey, I gave you this many joules of energy today. The rain, the clouds don't come, the sky doesn't come complaining and saying, hey, I give you this much water. It's no longer a desert where you live. This is not a romantic, language that I'm trying to use. But we have evidence of this all around, where there isn't that secret agenda. So we have walked away from living a pure life. That's what sila is, teaching us to become sharp again in our purity, in our giving attitude, without having an agenda. That's the other thing of life hacks. What's in it for me? That's what it is. These people who become big, whether in political systems or heads of company or somebody with great following, great number of followers, famous writer, famous this, wealthy, affluent. There's a beautiful saying from Jesus where he says, when you're being generous, when you're giving with your right hand, don't let your left hand know about it. Keep it a secret. We don't follow that dictum. We don't follow that lifestyle. Before we even give with the right hand, we've announced to the world, this is what I'm going to do. Well, it sullies the whole beauty of it. It's gone. It's dirty now because the intention is wrong. The intention is what dictates. So the intention in applying effort to live a good, religious, spiritually conscious, aware life was a responsibility and be a part of society in a healthy way, which is what religion serves the purpose of, while purifying your mind and your heart, has everything to do with being generous. Because you're purifying, you're giving away while understanding the intention behind it. There has to be joy in you. Similarly, when you're practicing sila, it should not be something forced by someone, let alone a teacher, even a teacher, as the case is with the Buddha himself. You must get to a place in your heart where you understand finally, get it through your thick head, beyond your conceit, that I've lived my life already without virtue. Where did it get me? Nowhere, other than misery and pain, confusion, uncertainty, despite what I tell myself. So checking the intention is key, and the intention has to have within it joy. Similarly, that was sila. Similarly with generosity. You must feel joy just with the thought of, I want to do this one day. I want to give, I want to go outside and help my neighbor who can't pull her, garbage bin out on trash day. So I'm going to go and help her out. In fact, I'm not even going to tell her. I'm going to, because they don't stop in front of her house, so I'm going to move the trash closer to where they pick it up from, because she can't, let's say. That's beautiful, beautiful generosity. So the intention, so it's not you going and telling her, hey, I'm going to do that, so that you see a reaction, so you feel good about yourself. No, that's not it. That's ulterior motive right there. The intention has to be in your mind. The joy has to be sparked in your mind. Wow, that's a beautiful thing. If ever that happened to me, I feel so great. Oh, wait a minute. It's not happening to me. I'm doing it for someone else. Wow, this is joyful. So that's before the action. And then during it, when you're doing it, you feel great that, oh, wow, it's actually happening. It started with a thought. Now it's taking place. And who's the author of this? Apparently I am. Wow. That's a totally fine joy to experience. To even, pat yourself on the back too, that's wonderful. And then the third aspect of the action, the intention in this case, is experiencing joy after the fact, after having done it, even decades later. That's beautiful. So similarly with Sila, that has to happen. Because people are having the thought, they're inspired by the persona of the teacher, let's say, or what they read in the book. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And then they are face to face with a situation where they need to apply that moral conduct. They refuse to. They cave in. They decide to go, take the shortcut or path of least resistance and do whatever they're comfortable with doing, as they've always done. And then they either feel guilty after the fact or make up excuses. Well, he was a very stern teacher. He's like so outdated. He's like, no, I want a real guru who celebrates life and says you don't need to be worried about those things. Just be happy and kumbaya and pay here, become a vegan or something like that, and it's going to heal you. There's some idiots out there who even say, oh, you can live without food, water, just prana, just air, aeritarian or something like breatharian. Yeah, put them in a box, put them in a cage with 24/7 cameras, making sure there's guards outside, or and let's see how long they'll last. Not even 24 hours, guaranteed, before you see them getting irritated. But you have idiots who believe this kind of nonsense. The Buddha himself didn't do that, Anybody who says, I live off of breath alone, no, it doesn't work like that. Biology doesn't allow. Physics doesn't allow. Okay? Science doesn't allow that to happen. They can for a while until they, croak and die. But they look like impressive. The physical, society is attracted to stuff like that. No, that has nothing to do with religion, with spiritually aware living. That comes alive when you're all alone and you have the option of going about living your life the way you always did, without sila, without virtue, immoral. You can get away with something, get what you want, without anyone seeing it. And then in the midst of all that, you say, no, I don't want to live like that. I live with virtue from now on. That choice changes everything. Now you are a healthy human being. You're becoming more and more. You're becoming sharper. You're chiseling yourself. You're truly healing society. A healthy society means if you see somebody's items, the bag that they placed in their, shopping cart, and they come out after having paid for it, of course, they come outside and they put the rest of the bags into their car, let's say, and they're about to drive away. However, they forget a bag on top of the hood or the car or the inside the shopping cart. And then you notice. A healthy society drives the person to go and says, hey, excuse me, you forgot the bag in there. Or you dropped $1 there or $100 there. It says, excuse me, your wallet. That is an indication that we are on the right track. Instead of saying, well, good that they didn't see it, I'm going to go and pick it up. That's also generosity, by the way. And also empathy in the true sense. Because you're thinking, oh my, if this person ends up, going back without realizing they dropped their wallet or that bag, who knows, maybe it's got medicine. What are they going to feel when they get to their kitchen counter and they put the bags and they're saying, what happened? Where's the thing? They might get angry at each other, at themselves. But you help them avoid all that drama, the pain, and you give them from your attention, from your heart, from your empathy, from your kindness, from your discipline. That's what Sila is, by the way. We have a society that is undisciplined because it's running after life hack, so-called, without realizing the essence of it. The essence of it is living with virtue, period. Because any other life hack out there that omits, misses out, ignores, overshoots Sila, living with virtue and proper integrity in conduct, is a sham. Some teacher trying to sell books or, membership or something. No, you're there joyfully with them, those total strangers who are saying, well, you remember that stranger, it was so nice of them to give me, to tell me that I left that bag over there on the shopping cart. Or they picked up my wallet and they said, excuse me, sir, you dropped this. That was so nice of them. That heals society. Protects us as well, individually and socially together.